It was almost 1968 when we had orders from General Vang Pao that we were to leave the military fort at Pavine and make our way to the military fort at Sohan Emokan, and that we had to make the journey on foot because there was no available helicopter. So we made our way to Sohan Emokan and stay at that fort for 6 months. At that time in 1968, the North Vietnamese army had defeated and pushed General Vang Pao and his troops out of the plain of Jars. It was chaos with many civilians fleeing to Long Ching with their livestock animals. During that time, General Vang Pao ordered us to move to Ka Long to guard and watch over his livestock animals. We watched over his livestock animals for about 5 months. During that time, the North Vietnamese army had made seizing Long Ching their primary goal and were making their way to Long Ching. The North Vietnamese troops were everywhere, heading to Long Ching, and they were now in our area where we have been protecting and watching over General Vang Pao livestock animals. During that time, there were many North Vietnamese troops everywhere. So during the day we stay at the fort, but during the night we abandon the fort and head to the hills and forest. We did that because honestly, we were scared. One night Colonel Valu led about 20 to 30 troops to sleep at the logging cabin, while we went down to sleep in the forest next to the roadside for the night. We were being quiet and being careful of our surrounding. But the troops at the logging cabin were not being silent and even had the lights on and smoking opium into the night. Colonel Valu was known to be an opium addict, and those that were also opium addicts follow him that night to the logging cabin so they can smoke opium together with no one stopping them. That night, a large amount of North Vietnamese troops arrives and saw the lights at the cabin. The North Vietnamese troops sneaked up to the cabin and started throwing hand grenades at and into the cabin. Colonel Valu and the troops with him fled the cabin and went into hiding in the forest without fighting back. The sound of all the hand grenades going off alerted us, but we didn't go support them that night. We all agreed to wait for daytime when we can see better. During the daytime, we slowly made our way to the cabin and looked for Colonel Valu and the troops with him. Luckily, no one was killed, but everyone was injured from grenade shrapnel. We radioed Long Ching headquarters about the situation, and they sent helicopters to pick up all the injured soldiers. As we searched the area, we noticed that the North Vietnamese didn't fire a single shot because there was no bullet casing anywhere. They also didn't attempt to breach the cabin. If they did, not a single troop in the cabin would have survived. The North Vietnamese troops' main objective was to get to Long Ching, and that was the main reason why they didn't take the Hmong troops in the cabin serious. Rather they kill the Hmong troops in the cabin or not, they really didn't care because their main objective was Long Ching, not that cabin. Nearly everyone uses the same tactic at the front line, defending the military fort during the day and abandoning the military fort at night to hide up in the hills and forest. Then when the morning comes, we would send a young brave soldier to go check on the fort to see if the North Vietnamese had taken the fort or not and let the rest of us know if it's safe for us to go to the fort or not. Why we did that because honestly everyone was scared. If General Vang Pao had known, we all would be in big trouble, but everyone did it and everyone kept their mouths shut. During the war, we had unlimited weapons, but we were always outnumbered by the North Vietnamese. We didn't win the war because our mentality towards the war was not at the same level as the North Vietnamese.